Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction to the Carolina Panthers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to go over the stats, and we're going to go over the scoring summary, and we're going to give our analysis for this game. If you want more in-depth, play-by-play, just leave a comment in the comment section below, and we'll do our best to oblige. Let's start off with the scoring summary in the first quarter. About midway through, Graham Gano got things started off, put the first points on the scoreboard in this game with a 43-yard field goal. And then with less than a minute left in the first quarter, Jason Myers hit a 22-yard field goal, and the game was tied up at 3 apiece heading into the second quarter. Then with less than 2 minutes left before halftime, Cam Newton found Jericho Cotchery for a 7-yard touchdown, and with the extra point, it would be 10-3 Carolina. And then, with less than 15 seconds left, Blake Bortles hits Rashad Green, the rookie from FSU, and they connect for the touchdown. They missed the extra point, and so Carolina would remain in the lead by 1 with the score 10-9 heading into the locker rooms at halftime. And then in the third quarter, with about 9 minutes left in the third, an interception, a pick six by Josh Norman as he returned it 30 yards all the way to the house. And with the extra point added by Gano, it was 17-9 as the Panthers took an 8-point lead. A very big play by the defense as the Carolina defense was looking very impressive in this game. And then with less than 3 minutes left, they shored it up with the field goal by Gano, a 47-yarder to make it 20-9, and that would remain the final score as the Panthers win this one over Jacksonville by double digits. So a very impressive win on the road by Carolina. Both teams were struggling on offense. Both defenses looked really good in this game. It was a defensive battle for sure, but coming away from this game, my thoughts are that the Panthers' defense was looking phenomenal. Of course, on the offensive end, they were sorely missing Kelvin Benjamin, as they really do not have that number one receiving target for Cam out there, as he was having some struggles. The top receiver was Ted Ginn Jr., 2 receptions for 54 yards. Greg Olsen only had 1 reception for 11 yards. Cotchery did have that touchdown, and he had 4 receptions for just 45 yards. Cam Newton was 18 for 31 with 175 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. And he did have 35 yards on the ground, but that was off of 14 carries / scrambles. John Stewart was the leading rusher in this game, but he had just 56 yards off of 18 attempts. So not really a big offensive production, but they did enough to get the job done, especially Graham Gano, as he came up huge in this game, as he was 2 for 4. He did miss 2 field goals, but he did make 2 extra points, which are like field goals now, because it's like 2 33-yard field goals, although you only get 1 point. And over on the Jacksonville end, Blake Bortles, he was kind of so-so. It was like at moments he looked good, and then at other moments he was looking really rough. He had 2 interceptions, including that pick six. He was 22 of 40, 183 passing yards. He did have the 1 touchdown. But, the Carolina Panthers really, they chewed them up and spit them out. And it was really the protection. They were having, trouble with that offensive line. The Panthers had like 5 sacks. They're in the backfield a lot, giving Bortles plenty of pressure. TJ Yeldon was looking pretty good, 51 yards off of just 12 attempts. They need to give him the ball more, though, for them to have, better production and more success. Bortles had 4 carries for 26 yards off scrambles, and Denard Robinson 5 attempts for just 19 yards. So really, they only ran the ball 21 times in the game, and they threw the ball 40 times, Jacksonville that is, and that's a recipe for disaster, where you actually saw more balance over, on the Carolina side, as they threw the ball, 31 times. And just between Stewart and Newton, that was 31 runs right there. You had another 3, 1 for Tolbert and 2 for Walker. And so they said they had more runs than they did passes on the Panthers side, and that's a big part of why they won this game. The further stats, for Jacksonville, Hearns had 60 yards off of 5 receptions. Rashad Green, 7 receptions, but just 28 yards. Of course, one of those was for a touchdown. Robinson just 1 reception for 27 yards. Allen Robinson and Denard Robinson had 2 receptions for 26 yards to go along with his 19 rushing yards. And Yeldon had 3 receptions for 16 yards to go along with his 51 rushing yards as well. And Myers, 1 for 2, and he missed an extra point for the Jags. And over on defense, Davis had a big game as he had 7 tackles and a sack and an interception. Kuechly had 7 tackles and a sack as well, but he ended up leaving the game to a concussion. I would imagine he'll be back next week, but that's not a good sign. Not something you want to see for sure. You definitely don't want to see him leaving the game. But I think he'll be all right, though. It's a concussion. It's not necessarily. You never know these days with head injuries, but he should be fine. I believe he'll be back next week. Addison had 2 sacks, and Johnson had 1 sack as well. So they, had 5 sacks there. Norman had that pick 6 as well. Big performance by their defense. Over on the other side, Pazluzny had 8 tackles and an interception. He was spectacular as always. And Skuda looked really good too in his first game, for the Jags with 6 tackles and a sack. Clemens had a sack as well. So as I said, good defensive performances on both sides of the ball. The Jags actually had more first downs with 18 first downs versus 17 for the Panthers. But the third down efficiency was just horrible for Jacksonville. Just 3 of 12 conversions on third down, just 25%. And the Panthers 8 for 17 for 47%, almost twice as much. Actually, more than twice as many, but percentage-wise, about twice as much. But they had 8 third down conversions to just 3 third down conversions for the Jags. And actually, the Jags had more net yards, 265 to 263, but that's kind of negligible right there. Panthers more rushing yards, 105 to 96 for the Jags, which I'm glad that the Panthers made that commitment to running, but they weren't getting a lot of production per carry, yards per carry. Just 3 yards per carry for the Panthers, whereas the Jags had 4.6 yards per carry. So really, if the Jags had committed themselves to the run more and had a more balanced attack, then maybe things go differently for them moving forward. But they continue to throw the ball twice as much as they run the ball, then they're going to have outcomes like they did today. And like I said, the Panthers, you gotta definitely appreciate and respect their commitment to the run. Although they weren't getting like big runs, they weren't necessarily getting high production, they just kept pounding it, and that's what you got to do. Even if you're not getting big yards, it eats up the time of possession. It also wears down the defense. They said it keeps your defense off the field, and you saw that the defense of the Panthers played very stellar. So the fact that they ran the ball so much enabled the defense of the Panthers to be able to perform at the level that they did perform at. Like I said, even though Jacksonville, they had more passing yards, but only 169, that's not really much. And 158, that's net passing yards for each team, so 158 for the Panthers. And time of possession, of course, 34 minutes and 6 seconds for Carolina, 25 minutes and 54 seconds for Jacksonville. So they said by running the ball, they ate up the clock. They kept their defense off the field. Their defense was on the field almost 10 less minutes than the Jacksonville defense. They said it was a defensive battle. That was the strength of both teams. And in the end, they said the commitment to running the ball paid off for Carolina, even though it didn't reap big dividends necessarily on the stat sheet, but it did on the time of possession. And like I said, it enabled their defense to remain fresh to where they played at such a high level. 5 sacks to get a couple of picks, including the pick 6. And the Panthers coming out looking very impressive in this game. But they got their issues too. They got to address they got to figure out some way to get that passing game going. Maybe I don't know what they can do, who's on the free agent market that they could pick up. There's actually 1 or 2 guys out there that should give a call. But also, maybe work on somehow maybe making a trade. I know the Vikings potentially are willing to move Cordero Patterson. Of course, he's not really, I don't know if he's the answer, though. But he does have big playmaker capability. although he's not a number one. But they need to do something to address their lack of, receivers and receiving production over there. But they come out with the win, though. And like I said, the defense looks very good out of the gates. So the final score was 20-9. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. What did you think about this game? And what do you think about things moving forward for both of these teams? Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and have a great weekend and enjoy all the sports.